The first thing that broke the calm of the cafe wasn't the clatter of dishes or the hum of conversations. It was the sharp, helpless sound of a pregnant woman's wheelchair catching on the edge of a table as she tried to move aside, her breath trembling as she struggled to keep herself steady. And in that split second, when she pressed a hand against her swollen stomach as if protecting the little life inside, not a single person turned to help her. Chairs scraped, servers rushed by, people looked, then looked away. It was as if she were invisible, a fragile silhouette fighting to exist in a world too busy to notice she was slipping. If you're watching this kindness journey right now, please like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe the world still needs hope, compassion, and second chances. Her name was Mara, 31, once an outdoor photographer who ran across mountains and forests with a camera swinging at her hip. A car accident 2 years ago had taken her mobility, shifting her life into one she was still learning to navigate. When her fiancé learned she might never walk again, he left, quietly, coldly, like stepping out of a room without shutting the door. The pregnancy was unexpected, but she had promised herself she'd raise this child alone, even if every day felt like a test she wasn't prepared for. She'd been coming to this cafe for weeks, trying to regain confidence in being around people again. Today was supposed to be her small victory, a morning outing during the gentle daylight, with sunlight filtering through wide windows, warm and reassuring, like a hand placed softly on her shoulder. But the moment her wheelchair snagged and she nearly tipped forward, she saw heads turn away. A woman pretended to scroll through her phone. A man lifted his cup higher as if the sight of her imbalance might spill something inside him. Mara swallowed the burn in her chest. Even breathing felt heavy. She whispered to herself that she should have stayed home. Her life had become a series of moments where she needed someone, but expected no one. Across the room, a little girl had seen everything. 4-year-old Arya was standing beside her father, holding a small toy flower she had picked up from the floor. She tugged her dad's sleeve gently, her eyes wide with something most adults had forgotten long ago, instinctive kindness. Her father knelt beside her, trying to understand what she was pointing at. He followed her tiny finger to where Mara silently corrected the alignment of her wheelchair, her trembling hands trying to mask the humiliation. Jonas, a 34-year-old single father, had brought his daughter here hoping to celebrate a small milestone. Arya had been timid for months since her mother passed away from an unexpected illness. She rarely approached strangers, rarely spoke outside the house, rarely smiled unless Jonas made a goofy face just to hear that soft giggle. Her pointing at someone was already surprising, her insisting on doing something about it was even more so. Jonas studied the scene, noticing what no one else bothered to understand. The tightness in Mara's jaw. The way she pressed her lips together to hold her courage from spilling. The soft wince she let slip only when she thought no one was looking. This wasn't just someone struggling with a wheelchair. This was someone exhausted by being unnoticed. Arya tugged again, then walked forward before he could stop her. Mara was adjusting her bag, pretending she was fine, when a small voice broke through the haze of embarrassment. The little girl stood in front of her, holding the toy flower out with tiny outstretched hands. Jonas stepped beside his daughter, gently resting a steadying hand on her shoulder. Arya pointed again, not at Mara, but at the fallen keychain on the floor near the wheelchair wheel. Jonas knelt, picked up the keychain, and offered it to Mara with a soft smile. But instead of simply handing it to her, he noticed the table next to her had been pushed too close, trapping her in place. He didn't hesitate, he pulled the chair out with a deliberate movement, opening space for her to breathe again. Mara blinked, surprised, not by the gesture itself, but by how long it had been since someone had offered her something without pity, hesitation, or discomfort. The daylight pouring from overhead windows softened the moment, illuminating dust particles drifting like tiny stars around them, turning an ordinary cafe scene into something cinematic. Jonas didn't ask anything, didn't intrude into her pain, he simply created room for her, quite literally, and it felt like the first real act of kindness she had received in months. Mara attempted to thank him, but her voice broke. She had held so much in, fear, exhaustion, loneliness, that even a simple act of understanding cracked her armor open. Jonas noticed the way her shoulders trembled, the way she avoided meeting his eyes as if afraid of showing too much. He didn't need her to explain, he could see the weight she carried. Arya, sensing something even she couldn't describe, stepped closer and placed her small hand gently on Mara's knee. It was such a simple thing, yet so powerful that Mara's breath hitched. No judgment. No hesitation. Just pure, innocent comfort. The cafe around them blurred into background noise, the clinking of dishes, the low chatter, the footsteps, all fading as if the world had paused to witness something quietly extraordinary. Jonas helped her reposition her chair, giving her the space she needed to regain her composure. He didn't treat her like she was fragile or broken. He treated her like a person. And that, Mara realized, was what she had missed most. As the minutes passed, the tension in her chest slowly loosened. The warm light from the windows settled around all three of them, turning the moment into something tender and fragile. Mara felt tears forming, not from sadness this time, but from the overwhelming relief of being seen. She had spent so long believing the world had turned its back on her. Yet here was a single father who had enough burdens of his own, still choosing to step forward. What Mara didn't know was that Jonas understood loneliness deeply. After losing his wife, he had spent nights sitting on the edge of his bed wondering how to raise a child while carrying grief like an invisible anchor. He knew what it felt like to have too much to handle and no one to tell. Seeing Mara, he recognized a reflection of his own silent suffering. They didn't need words. Their shared pain spoke louder than anything they could have said. The sunlight shifted as the hour passed, warming the polished tables and casting soft golden halos around everyone inside. Mara finally breathed without shaking. Jonas sat across from her with Arya on his lap, and for the first time in a long while, Mara didn't feel like she was intruding into someone else's world. She felt like she belonged in this moment. Before the story ends, viewers, please take a second to comment what touched you most in this journey of compassion. As Mara prepared to leave, Jonas walked beside her, steady but not hovering. Arya waved her little hand, smiling shyly, and Mara felt something bloom inside her chest that had been missing for too long: hope. It wasn't the loud kind. It was the quiet kind, the kind that settles gently into a wounded heart and reminds it that healing is still possible. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to support more stories like this. And in the final moments, as Mara rolled toward the exit with sunlight spilling across her path, she realized that sometimes the smallest acts, a child pointing out something dropped, a man pulling out a chair, could lift a person from the edge of despair. She carried with her not just her unborn child, but the soft, powerful truth that kindness is not rare. It just takes one brave soul to start it. And when it comes, it becomes the kind of memory that reminds us the world can still be gentle.